I'm a Gentile. I know exactly who I am, but it seems to be the one group of people in the world that have been, by the rest of the world, tried to be dumbed down to the fact or completely erase their history from history is the African American people, so-called, that are scattered throughout the nations. Now, please understand that not every single black person is a true Hebrew, but it is those that are under the curse of Deuteronomy 28.
I know my God's real. He love me, and he love you too.
Amen. Let's dance, Mama.
You ever preach from the book of Exodus?
Well, yeah.
White preacher don't let no slave preacher man talk about the Israelites or Pharaoh, do they? No slaves marching across the sea to be free. Bet them pages cut right out your Bible. Start preaching about Exodus, find yourself swinging from a low limb.
Symbol of Jesus?
Well, hello, Symbol, and goodbye.
But JJ painted him.
Don't finger me, Michael. I had him in the closet where he wasn't performing no miracles for nobody.
Mama, couldn't we at least let black Jesus hang alongside?
Forget it. The only Jesus I know is him, and the one thing he don't need is a partner. Squash out both of you. This picture has been in my family for as long as I can remember. When I was a baby, I don't know what I saw first. My mama, my papa, or this Jesus. Now, he's the one I know and love, so let's close the subject. Jesus was black, the Bible would have said so.
But it does say so.
What are you talking about?
I read about it. It's in Revelations chapter 1, verse 14. It says, his hair is like wool, and his eyes are like flame of fire.
Well, Lord have mercy. It sure do say that, don't it?
And see, Mama, look at her hair, like wool, ain't it? And look at them eyes, red like fire.
Yeah, they sure
Mama, how do we know Jesus wasn't black? He could have been from the lost tribe of Israel. They were supposed to be black. He could have been from the lost tribe of Israel. They were supposed to be black.
I bet they were. If ever people were lost, we're it. If ever people were lost, we're it.
Children, obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord. Slaves, obey your earthly masters in everything, not only when their eye is on you and to curry the favor, but with sincerity of the heart in reference of the Lord.
Oh, I don't believe it. How old are you, boy?
I ain't been on yet, sir.
Pay up, gentlemen. It's dangerous, you know, teaching them to read. It's true. Nat Turner was taught to read.
Nonsense. Let me show you. Boy, can you explain to me the meaning of what you just read?
No, master.
See? It's like a parrot reciting Shakespeare. Well done, Elam. Well done.
Now I have heard the groaning of the Israelites whom the Egyptians hold in slavery, and I have remembered my promise. Say unto the children of Israel, I am the Lord. And I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians, and I will rid you out from under their bondage. And I will redeem you with a stretched out arm, and ye shall know that I am the Lord.
Are there any questions?
Hey, watch it, baby. This cat is heavy on religion.
I can see this has become a struggle between good and evil. Satan has a question. Yes, sir, Chaplain Gill, but since neither one of us are God, I don't think either one of us are in any position to say who's good and who's evil.
Why don't you just ask your question?
We were discussing the disciples. What color were they?
Well, I don't think we know that for certain.
But they were Hebrews, were they not?
That's right.
As was Jesus. Jesus was also a Hebrew.
Why don't you just ask your question?
What color were the original Hebrews?
I have told you that we don't know that for certain.
Then you can't believe for certain that Jesus was white.
Just a moment. God is white. Isn't it obvious?
Well, that is obvious, but we don't know if it's obvious that God is white. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that Jesus did not have blonde hair and blue eyes. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that the images of Jesus that are on prison walls and churches throughout the world are not historically correct, because history teaches us that Jesus was born in a region where the people had color. There's proof in the very Bible that you ask us to read in Revelation, 1st chapter, verse 14 and 15, that Jesus had hair like wool and feet the color of brass.
Just what are you saying?
I'm not saying anything. I'm proving to you that Jesus was not, and I might quote one of our Indian brothers, he was not a paleface. And I might quote one of our Indian brothers, he was not a paleface.
Aha.
Amen.
Isn't that interesting?
It's only by the grace of God that any of these people will reach their as-yet unknown destinations alive. Or maybe it's His will that they don't. So, Lieutenant, why are you venturing into those forsaken regions?
What do you know about a man named Shaka?
Does that answer your question, Lieutenant? The Masani tribe, Umulos, Lubis, Unos, the Unguanis, countless others, the banished of Southeast Africa, fleeing Shaka's spears, going straight into the arms of the white slave traders and the British troops on the borders of the Cape Colony. In a way, Lieutenant, they are the ultimate victims of recent history. If you'll favor my comparison, they are the wandering Jews of Africa. Fleeing the Pharaoh Shaka, they are the wandering Jews of Africa. Fleeing the Pharaoh Shaka, they are the wandering Jews of Africa. Fleeing the Pharaoh Shaka into the Babylonian captivity of slavery.
Is deserved punishment for your disgraceful and iniquitous practice of keeping African slaves. This base custom, so evidently contrary to the laws of God, violates the natural and unalienable rights of mankind. For all those who prosper from slavery, hellfire will be your ultimate reward.
Slaves, because they own us, that'd be a lot of Tubab in hell.
Don't you ever let me hear you say that word again.
That's what the preacher said.
You ain't a preacher.
Your mama is right. You're not a preacher. Because preachers are no more for them alone. Besides, hell is not punishment enough for the Tubab.
How would the Tubabs be punished?
What did I just tell you? God will take care of us. Now eat your food.
Out on a wagon tongue with this old black man, and was telling him what a different kind of white man I was. I remember him looking at me very sadly and kind of sweetly and condescending and said, "You know, you still got the disease, honey. I know you think you're cured, but you're not cured. You can't give me the right to be a human being. I'm born with that right. Now, you can keep me from having that. If you've got all the policemen and all the jobs on your side, you can deprive me of it. But you can't give it to me, because I was born with it just like you was." And my God, it had a profound effect on me. I was furious with him. But the more I reflected on it, the more profoundly it affected me. And I realized this was where it really was.
talking about the Hebrew Israelites that are coming up to the truth of their heritage and realize this is their book. This is written about their family. You can easily see it from beginning to end that this is about one people that the nations can cleave to and become reborn and become an Israelite. He's not the God of the Gentiles, the Hudim, the Greek. He's only the Elohim of Israel. He says that the Hebrew Israelite movement is leeching off the Christian church. Isn't that the biggest, most hypocritical comment you've ever heard in your entire life? Christians have done nothing but leech off the heritage of another people. They practice replacement theology and put themselves as the people of the book. Yahweh has the people that he was sent to. And it's the lost sheep of the house of Israel, his firstborn son. That's who Yeshua was sent to. I am not sorry to tell you that Abraham, the father of the faith, was not a Christian. He was a Hebrew. I am in no way apologetic to tell you that his son Isaac also was a Hebrew. And I am no way going to tiptoe around the fact that Jacob was a Hebrew whose name was changed to Israel as one that struggles with Yah and overcomes, who gave birth through polygynous marriage to the 12 tribes of the house of Israel. Because I thought we had nobody Hebrew Israelite commandment keepers until just about 20 years ago. I thought, according to vocab alone, that this is some relatively new movement. Well, let's keep going. The Pasaginians, also spelled Pasaginians, were a religious sect which appeared in Lombardy in the late 12th or now 13th century, and possibly appearing much earlier in the East. The Summa Contra Hereticos, ascribed to the Praepositinus of Cremona, describes the Pasaginians as retaining the Old Testament rules on circumcision, kosher foods, and Jewish holidays. In other words, they observe the law of Moses, accept and respect to sacrifices, and thus were given the name circumcisi. There's another name that we got for these people. So it's all over history because of the arrogancy of the Catholic Church to preserve these records. And I thank y'all for it. Because now you have these self-prescribed scholars and teachers like vocab alone that don't know anything about historical documentation.
Deuteronomy 28, verse 68. And Yahweh shall bring you into Mitzrayim, Egypt again with ships. And the way of which I said to you, you shall see it no more again. And there you shall be sold to your enemies for slaves and female slaves, and no man shall buy you. And that is what happened to the regal class of the house of Judah. And I want to give you a brief history. I won't go into it too much, but I can't just make that statement because there'll be people that will push back. But I want to give you a brief history on slavery. I was just amazed, I got to tell you. I mean, when you come to America and you talk to people about slavery, you can talk to black people about slavery, white people about slavery, and they'll give you all this history on slavery, and it only goes back to the 16th and the 17th century. And you're like, don't they teach you the history of slavery? Why? Ask the bloody question. Why are they only teaching you the history of slavery as far back as the 16th and the 17th century? Why are they only going that far back? Because they don't want you to go farther back than that, because then you'll actually find out the truth. But from the 16th and 17th century, we'll teach you about slavery. You've got to go further back, and you've got to understand and question, why do they do this throughout the whole of America, in all the public schools? Why do they only go back as far as the 16th and the 17th century to talk about slavery? We've got to go further back than that. Because Islam designed infernal slavery. And then the Ashkenazi Khazars, those who say they are Jews and are not, are the ones that marketed it. And the regal Negro nomads exiled from the kingdom of Judah were the main recipients of it at the hands of the indigenous black Africans. Because you've got to understand, the regal class of the house of Judah came down from Israel and they came into the land of the black Africans. And the black Africans resented the regal class of the house of Judah in their land because they had laws, they had customs, they had civility. And they were a regal class of Negro that came down into Africa. And later on, it was the Ashkenazi, the Islamic slave traders as well, that then worked together with the indigenous black Africans to enslave the regal house of Judah. This is what we've got to understand, but you've got to go back before the 16th century to understand the roots of it. So we're going to see as we dig into this where this slavery came from, because it was really a system that was very, very well crafted. There was Islamic masters and there were white Ashkenazi Khazar ship owners. There were the buyers and the sellers. And they're not going to fill you in on all of this, but really you've got a 4-tier system. Number one, you have the Negro nomads that were exiled from the kingdom of Judah. Number two, you had indigenous black African hunters that resented the regal Negro nomads that had come into their territory with their own customs, with their own laws that were different and would not assimilate into their tribal culture. They were their own tribe. They were the regal house of Judah. Number three, you had Islamic trappers that worked with the indigenous black Africans to trap the regal Negro house of Judah. And then you had them sell them to the Ashkenazi ship merchants, along with many Portuguese and British Ashkenazi.
The simple fact of the matter is that my people have lied to you and the whole world about the Bible and have sought to paint their images over your images and to replace you in the Bible, which is your history, heritage, and culture. This is Moses talking to the children of Israel after they've come out of Egypt, bondage. This is Moses talking to the children of Israel. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 1. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. Here he is talking to the Israelites. The second verse, he begins to go into the blessings that would be put on the Israelites if they would keep the commandments. That says that they'd be blessed in the city, blessed in the field, and basically blessed in everything that they would undertake to do. They would lend to other nations, but not borrow, things of that nature. But in verse 15 of Deuteronomy chapter 28, it says, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Now I want to go to Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 68, and read one of those curses that all Israelites, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, should immediately be able to identify with, proving that you are the Israelites of the Bible. This is Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. thou shalt see it no more. The it is referring to your homeland, Israel, Jerusalem. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies. So wherever you got off of those ships, who you were sold to, those are your enemies, according to God. For bond men and bond women, and no man shall buy you. That word buy means to redeem. And many have came and tried to redeem the Israelites. Marcus Garvey tried and failed. Malcolm X tried and failed. Martin Luther King Jr. tried and failed. Now, as far as it says, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. The word Egypt is a word that means bondage, house of bondage. It is a Greek word. The Bible explains and proves itself. And I'm going to go to Exodus to prove that Egypt, that y'all being brought back into Egypt again with ships, is not referring to you going back into the land of Egypt literally again, but is referring to you going into slavery again. This is Exodus chapter 20, verse 21. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. What is another word for bondage? Slavery.
To the real Hebrew Israelites, you're going to refer to Deuteronomy 28, 64 through 68. He is reprimanding and passing judgment on the Israelites for the wrongs that they did, and they did wrong, and they get their judgment, and they have suffered it. He sent them into ships, by ships, into bondage, scattered, so they would never know their land again, it says. They will never know who their God is, and God shall turn his back on them. They never knew who they were. The Jews today happen to have heritage and they know who they are, but it violates everything that we're going to look at in your scriptures of Deuteronomy, Jeremiah, Zechariah. Because it's not supposed to be established by man. It's supposed to be established by God, and in the end he said he would wake them up. You're going to find in Jeremiah and Zechariah that these people who were taken by ship into bondage and scattered throughout the lands, never to be seen again, never to know who they are again, would not be awoken until the end times. Today, my friends, we are in the end times.
I don't want to end up like Bonnie and Clyde.